Good morning, everybody. This is the Big Dawg. It's Saturday, October 28th, 2017. We out here drinking coffee, getting everything going on. I appreciate y'all tuning in to the Out of Bounds Sports Network. This is Walking with the Dawg, and I'm your host, the Big Dawg. So we had a lot of sports that was going on yesterday. We're going to do a morning recap of the sports from last night. We're going to go with the NBA first. We had about 5 or 6 games yesterday that was really noteworthy to talk about. The first game we'll talk about was the Houston Rockets. They went into Charlotte and did their thing. James Harden, first triple-double of the season in a 109-93 defeat. Now, to elaborate a little bit on that game, the whole team situation, basically. I believe that the Chris Paul trade, was trash. The Houston Rockets didn't need another point guard because that's actually what James Harden is. He's one of those players who kind of needs the ball a little bit more to excel with his skill set. So when they got Chris Paul, I was surprised. I was like, I don't really know if they should have did that. You know what I'm saying? Because now, as you can see, Chris Paul is out, but he's out with an injury. But in the first game of the season, if you watch that game, Chris Paul looked lost. They were in Golden State, and he was very ineffective. Only because when you're a true point guard, your job is to get the ball and get the ball to other people so they can score. But Chris Paul wasn't able to do that when you got players like James Harden, who is a point guard, shooting guard, and so he dribbles the ball all the time. So he ends up taking Chris Paul actually out of the game. And here we are with a controversy already early in the season. But I think that James Harden is an exceptional player, and Chris Paul is too, so maybe they'll figure it out. San Antonio went to go visit the Orlando Magic, and Fournier had a really, really nice game with 25 points. It looks like they pretty much drubbed the San Antonio Spurs 114-87, and they led points in every quarter except for the fourth quarter, and they didn't lead by 4 points at 23-19. So LaMarcus Aldridge, 9 for 14, 24 points. Evan Fournier, 25 points. 10 for 12 from the field, had a monster game. The San Antonio Spurs, they're up and down. They look really good one night. They look like they're going to be a contender in the West. And then the next night, they can't throw a rock in the ocean. So I don't understand what's up with the consistency. But one thing I can say is Pop is a great coach, so he's going to figure it out, I believe. Okay? Denver and Atlanta. 105-100. Not much to talk about. Nikola Jokic recorded a triple-double, 18 points and 15 rebounds. Will Barton and Gary Harris each scored 18 points in the game, and then Denver Nuggets, they beat them in their home opener. So the Denver Nuggets look like they're the real deal. They fake you out every year. Every year they come in, they play pretty tough. They shoot well early in the year. They don't have much controversy. But then every single year, during playoff time or close to playoff time, players start getting injured. Guys start losing unnecessary games. They have a coach controversy. So I don't look for the Denver Nuggets to be too consistent this year, making too much noise. But hey, you never really know. The Brooklyn Nets are back to their old ways. They got smashed by 21 points by the New York Knicks, who still, in my opinion, is just the franchise that still can't get it right. Can't get it right with the players. Now you done lost Carmelo, but you tried to stick it out and build a franchise around him for many years, and that didn't work. You tried to bring in one of the greatest coaches of all time, arguably the greatest coach of all time, Phil Jackson, and he wouldn't sleep on you. So that's what you're looking at when you're dealing with the New York Knicks. They're a storied franchise with all the history, but the championship just don't add up. So I don't know why people make so much of a buzz of the New York Knicks, because they're not just this franchise that should be on Mount Rushmore. Talk about them all the time. OKC, one of my favorite teams. They went into Minnesota last night and lost. Karl Anthony Towns, a young boy, pretty good, 33-19. The Thunder was trying to get him, but the Minnesota Timberwolves got a really good, young, talented team. I can tell you that. Russell Westbrook had 27 last night, despite the loss in Minnesota. Excuse me. These scores are outrageous. 116 to 119. I'm trying to figure out, is anybody playing any defense? It's a lot of, good basketball players on each one of these teams, but, you have to do better about playing some defense and stop trying to see who can outscore who, because eventually that type of game plan for a team is not going to work in the playoffs against a good defensive team collectively, like the Spurs, like Golden State, like Cleveland, the Boston, teams that rely on defense to win games, not so much as offense, even though they have some great offensive players on their team. The Wizards and Warriors, John Wall and Bradley Beal go into Golden State last night and get thrashed. But not only did they get thrashed on the court, they got thrashed mentally. Draymond Green is one of my favorite players of all times. Okay? The reason why I said Draymond Green is one of my favorite players of all time is because he's an undersized big man. He has so much heart, he'll go at anybody. And that's the type of player you want on your team. If I was comparing him to anybody that played in the NBA, I would compare him to Dennis Rodman. And I watched Dennis Rodman play for many years, all through my childhood. And Dennis Rodman was one of the greatest defensive and rebounding people I've ever seen at 6'7". Will block your shot, will run all the way down to the other end before everybody get down the court with his hand in the air, because he had so much energy and he brought so much to the game. He was an impactful player. That's why he had 5 championships. You can say what you want to say about how he dressed and his makeup and his nose ring and all of that, but you can name one guy that played better defense than him. He will be in the top 5 all defensive of all time. And I think the other people that will be with him is probably Oscar Robertson as far as the steals go, and all of the big men, who block shots and hang around the paint and defend the rim. That was the type of player he is, and Draymond Green is that type of player. Okay? He gets a bad rap because of the type of player he is, and they want the league to be soft. I wouldn't say they want the league to be soft. I would say they're trying to protect players a lot more than they're trying to protect the integrity of the game. And when I played, the game was a lot more tougher than it is right now. These flagrant fouls that they're giving out and ejecting guys for, one little bump or a little bit of trash talking, that's a part of the game. Being competitive is a part of the game. And we're going to round it off with the Raptors going into LA last night, beating LA 101-92. Lamar DeRozan does it again. This young man right here is my sleeper in the league. Okay, he's under the radar every year. Yeah, he gets the All-Star vote, but he doesn't get the media coverage. He doesn't get the buzz for the type of player he is. And I'm going to tell you what type of player he's a scoring machine, right? He's a scoring machine because he is one of the few players in the league that can score inside and out consistently. He has the mid-range jumper. That's his bread and butter. The pull up at the corner of the free throw line, mid-range. If you get to a spot, you can hang it up. He's athletic enough to get all the way to the rim and create a couple of highlight films on boys that's standing on there peeking and looking. And he can shoot a long three. Okay? Coupled with Kyle Lowry, who's an underrated point guard, but he'll give you the business, and they paid him that big money a couple years ago. They went into LA and did their thing last night. Julius Randle had 18 points and lead all scorers for the Los Angeles Lakers. And the Los Angeles Lakers dropped to 2-3, and the Toronto Raptors rise to 2-3-2. Last night, I was covering the SMU Tulsa game. And you're talking about two of the top offenses in FBS this year, 2017. SMU averaging 42 points a game, roughly, and Tulsa's averaging 37 points a game. Again, nobody's playing any defense on either team, but they do have some standout defensive players. Trey Quinn is an exceptional receiver who in the last 3 games had over 15 catches. Actually 15 and 17 and 17. So he had 17 twice in the last few games, over 100 yards. Tulsa's running back, Brewer, he's a beast. You know, he was getting so many yards on the ground in the first half. It didn't look like SMU was going to have an answer to stop the running game. But lo and behold, they did. And their defense came out and held the Tulsa, who they gave up 28 points in the first half. They only held them to 6 points in the third quarter, which the score ended up being 38-34 because SMU scored the last 10 points of the game to finish and round it off. They didn't make the over and under, which was 75. They didn't make the 75, but what I can say, it was a very entertaining game. They have homecoming on November the 4th. I'll be out there covering that game. We're going to be covering the NFL. And then also last night, the Houston Astros took the lead in the series, in the World Series, 2-1, with a 5-3 win at home. Listen, these Houston Astros are an exciting team to watch. They was the number 1 offense in the major leagues. And being down 0-1, okay, after game 1 of this series, and only scoring 1 run, it looked like Los Angeles had their number. I would say all the way up to the bottom of the 6th in game 2. It was looking really, really bad for the number 1 scoring offense. It looked like they couldn't get anything going. Now, I was talking to my co-host last night about this main thing that's very important about offense. Okay? They have a slogan that says offense sells tickets, defense wins championships, right? But as an offensive player, I understand that you can't hold down the offense for long. You could get in there and throw a bunch of punches, beat the body up, you know, and then offense will be swaying and you know, discombobulated, but eventually they're going to get it all together. They're going to get their equilibrium together, and they're going to prevail. And so, as I sat in Addison, at Addison Cigar Lounge, on the patio, with all of the guys from the Cigar Boys organization, Corey Carswell, the main man, Big Tex, in the marketing.